How are we looking, Tony?
We are good. Do you see Mark?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Mark. Josh?
You're muted, Josh.
Oh, hold on a second.
So
There he is.
I'm polishing off my peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay.
All set?
All set.
Okay, well, first of all, happy holidays to everybody from the Board of Selectmen and Tony. And welcome to our December 21st, I guess we call it the year-end Board of Selectmen's meeting. We've got a very busy schedule agenda tonight. And presumably a lot of the folks that are online right now are here because of the coyote discussion. Town Administrator Tony is going to cover that during the Town Administrator's report at the end of the agenda, along with Dave Waddles from Mass Wildlife. Please be patient as we have regular business, lots of, to attend to first. And then after the Town Administrator's report, we will go to Citizens Forum. A reminder to all for Citizens Forum, please state your name and address. Keep your comments to 2 minutes if you can. And we'd like this meeting to end at 8:30. Please be mindful of time. You can get in line for Citizens Forum by submitting your name and address in the chat box now and throughout the meeting. So with that, Josh, I'll let you begin with opening comments.
Okay. Just 1 second here. Opening comments. Town Hall holiday hours. The Town Hall will be closed on Monday, December 26, 2022, and Monday, January 2nd, 2023, in observance of Christmas and New Year's holiday. Winter parking ban, December 31st, 2022 through March 20th, 2023, from 12 a.m. midnight to 6 a.m. Visit the parking clerk's page at nahant.org or Nahant Police Station website for more information. Reason for a Reason Polar Plunge is Sunday, January 1st, 2023, starting at 11 a.m. at Short Beach behind the Coast Guard Station. I believe the Coast Guard Station is also going to be open at that time, the warm-up hut and bathroom facilities and so on. I guess that's it for opening announcements.
All right.
We can go straight into the public hearing on the liquor licenses, or we want to pause? I don't know if you or Mark have any other.
Mark, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, we have some licenses to approve, so before we do that, we have to open a public hearing. So I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority, open the public hearing.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim,
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Okay, the first hearing we're going to have is on Bayside liquor licenses and the common vicular license renewal and transfer. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the liquor license renewal application for 2023 as approved by the ABCC for the Bayside Function Corporation, 1 Southwick Ave, Nahant, Mass. 01908, residence, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Seconded.
Discussion?
This is just a renewal of their existing licenses, no additions or subtractions.
Correct. That's correct. Okay, roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following transfer of the liquor license application for the year 2023 to be approved by the ABCC from the Bayside Function Corporation, Gerardo Raphael, 1 Southwick Avenue, Nahant, Mass. 01908, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages, to Victoria Hall, Bayside, manager Ron Barboza da Silva, 1 Southwick Ave, Nahant, Mass. 01908, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Discussion?
So I seconded it for the record.
Any discussion?
So it's really just a same location, same license, different name.
Same thing.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind you that this is a public hearing, so you may want to ask if there is anybody on that is either approves or disapproves of this vote.
Good, thanks, Mike. Is there anyone out there that wishes to do so?
I do see someone. You muted, John. John, you muted. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Attorney John Meridian of Democus Law Offices. I'm here on behalf of Victoria Hall Bayside LLC. I just want to explain the transfer and what's going on to the board and to the town and request the appropriate approvals. Victoria Hall Bayside LLC is buying the function hall known as the Bayside from Bayside Function Corp. It's going to be a transfer of business ownership. And we're seeking two things: approval of the transfer of the license, and the manager of record is Nadir Colo, not Ron Barbosa da Silva, it's Nadir. But this group runs a Victoria Hall Function Hall up in Woburn, and they're going to expand their business to the premises in Nahant. They'll have about 20 to 25 employees when they do have functions. They're well versed in checking IDs and complying with the alcohol sales issues. And all we're seeking is a transfer of the license at the same location. It'll be the same operation as it is now as a function hall. And that's what we're seeking tonight.
When do you intend to open?
This is all contingent upon the board's approval and then the ABCC approval. And the ABCC takes approximately 6 to 8 weeks right now to review and approve license transfers. So once that occurs, then we'll close on the business transaction and, hopefully open up in early spring or late winter, early spring and get this going.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments, discussion?
I don't know, does the motion need to change to reflect the correct management for that recent comment?
Is Dan there?
You're muted, Dan.
You're muted. Dan, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get on. Okay, great. Can you repeat the motion? I heard the question, and we're referring to the Bayside vote, not the Turnstone vote, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
You want me to read the motion again?
Yes, please.
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following common victual license renewal as it stands alone or in connection with a liquor license for the year 2023 for Bayside Function Corporation. Am I reading the right one here?
I don't think so. I think it's the one where it mentions the manager. Is that correct, Mr.? Or the attorney that just spoke, John? Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney Meridian, so it's the Bayside, the Victoria Hall Bayside LLC transfer request. And the manager should be Nadir Colo, Coelho. And the motion should also include a pledge of the license to Bayside Function Corporation.
All right, we need to go through that again, I think, huh? So we have this right?
I'm just, Mr. Chairman, just waiting for council to let me know if wants me to read it that way.
Okay.
So so I'm asking Meridian, what in there needs to be changed to accurately reflect the current transferee?
The three motions should be: one, a transfer of the license to Victoria Hall Bayside LLC. The second one should be approval of Nadir Colo as manager of record, and that's Nadir. Last name is Coelho. And the last and third motion is approval of the pledge of the license to Bayside Function Corporation.
Okay. Well, I think that third motion you mentioned can be done with the motion that's currently on the floor. Do you agree? Okay, so go ahead. That motion is already.
Just, sorry, Dan, just to jump in on, we have in our motion to Victoria Hall Bayside manager Roan Barbosa da Silva. Is that the name that's on the license, Attorney Meridian?
Rome Barbosa da Silva is the LLC manager. Nadir Colo is the manager of record, and he should be the name on the license.
So let me read that again, Dan, if you want, I'll do that motion again. And when I get to the manager, then I'll stop and get the name again correctly.
Okay. That's great.
Uh,
I'm taking a minute here to flip through the supporting documentation to make sure it's consistent with what Mr. Meridian just said. There's no sense getting it wrong, right? It's quite a few pages here, 72 pages. So
Look, if you look at page 6 of the actual ABCC application, that's the correct name, Nadir Colo.
buyer. Okay, so the buyer, Roman Barbosa de Salva, is the manager,
Of the LLC.
25% ownership.
Didn't Mark have it correct to read the motion as it is and then substitute the names?
I just want to, Josh is just checking the documents to make sure.
I'm just looking for where the name appears in the document. So, sorry that it takes so long. It's just we might as well get it right if we're doing it. So where in the document does it talk about the manager?
So, Mr. Antrim, if you're looking at the ABCC application, and if you flip to the page that had the 4 names with ownership,
Yep.
it's a couple pages afterwards. It starts at the top. It says Section 12, Manager Application, Manager Information.
Yep. Transfer of license, filing fees, payment, transaction. Oh, I see it, yeah. Manager of record, Nadir Antonio Colo.
Correct.
Okay.
So, John, just before I repeat this motion, then, there are two managers, the manager of the LLC, then the second manager is,
The manager of the Bayside.
well, let me read the motion, John, and then you let me know that, when I get to that, section of the motion, let me know if I get the names correct, okay?
Yeah.
I move that the Board of Selectmen, do we have to, Dan, do we have to go back and rescind this?
Yeah, I think we should, just to make it clear for the record. So we'll just, I make a motion to withdraw the current motion, and then we'll just start over again.
Okay, I make a motion to withdraw the current motions regarding the liquor license transfer. Based on,
Seconded,
Seconded, yes.
roll call vote,
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye.
So the first one we're dealing with is the renewal of the Bayside liquor license, am I right?
Yep, so we did that. No hitch there.
No
Okay,
hitch
so-
there, no changes there.
So now we're looking to transfer it to Victoria at this point?
Yeah, so we need to make a change there.
Yeah, I don't see anyone's name in that motion. Maybe I have an old one, but I don't see any name in there.
It's in the two portion.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
It's just that the manager's name is wrong there. And then there was a second feature you wanted to include, Mr. Agee.
Right, so the three are the transfer, the manager of record is Nadir, and the third is the pledge of the license to Bayside Function Corporation as their seller financing the transaction.
Okay. Want to give this a shot, Dan?
Yeah, Counselor, I'm kind of lost on when you say that you need to pledge. That's nowhere in the motion. What motion are you suggesting when we need to pledge the license?
But the application was for a transfer of the license,
Yep, to Victoria Hall Bayside.
Victoria Bayside, the manager of record as Nadir Coelho,
Yep,
and if the third request is a pledge of the license, which is on page 5 of that application, to Bayside Function Corporation. As Bayside Function Corporation is selling the business for $150,000, but to do that, they're taking back a promissory note for that loan to be repaid. So as security for that loan, they want to pledge of the license.
so that would be a separate vote then than the second one here. That'd be a third vote.
Third vote for that. Yes.
Okay, so I think we can, with that name change, Mark, we can make the second motion as it's written here in our backup documents, and then we can make that third motion. We can ask Attorney Moravian to just state the motion. We can state as moved and then vote from there in terms of the pledge. And then we can move on to the CV.
So we're not changing this motion that we just rescinded, right? We're gonna redo
As
it.
long as the names are correct. I thought that there was a name.
It's the name correction, right?
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following transfer of liquor license application for the year 2023 to be approved by the ABC from the Bayside Function Corporation, Gerardo Raphael, 1 Southwick Ave, Nahant, Mass. 01908, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. 2, you want to take this, John? And when I can, go ahead.
To Victoria Hall Bayside LLC.
Okay, and
Manager.
And Nadir Colo as manager of record.
okay, so moved.
Seconded.
And
Okay.
further,
Yeah, there's more out there.
go
Okay.
ahead, Mark. And
And
further,
further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Okay, motion made, seconded, and discussed. Roll call vote?
Sorry, didn't we just combine two motions into one?
No,
No.
We already renewed it. Now we're transferring.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good, yeah, I was,
Yeah, it's
I'm
a
all set.
process.
Okay, roll call vote?
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
Counselor, can you state the third pledging motion you mentioned? Oh, he's muted.
Mr. Meridian,
He's muted.
you're muted.
Is that the next motion?
It's not in the papers, but it's a motion that Attorney Meridian needs us to make.
Sorry about that. I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve a pledge of the liquor license to Bayside Function Corporation.
that sound all right, Dan?
Yeah,
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call vote?
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
and now we move on to the CV. All right, so now we're going to renew it, and we're going to transfer it. I suppose you need to make another pledging. Is that right, Counselor?
The CV does not need a pledge, just a renewal and a transfer.
All right, we already have it in front of us, so we can go ahead and just do that. Don't forget the public comment portion. So Mark, you're good to go for the Bayside CV renewal.
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen acting as the local licensing authority vote to approve the off-premises malt,
No.
excuse me.
Sorry, Mark, go back to go to your third page at the top. It's the motion, it's titled Bayside Common Victualler License Renewal.
Right, correct.
Do this already?
We
No,
did
this
that.
is.
That
the
was a liquor license.
CV.
Oh,
I can read it if you'd like, Mark.
Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following common victualler license renewal as it stands alone or in connection with a liquor license for the year 2023 for the Bayside Function Corporation, 1 Southwick Avenue, Nahant, Mass. 01908. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certification form.
So moved.
seconded.
Dan, have we got this right?
Yeah, it sounds good. Let the public comment if they want to. It is a hearing after all.
If anyone in the public wants to comment, just raise your hand or put your name in the chat and we will ask you to unmute.
Not hearing any? Roll call vote?
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
Now, Mr. Chair, do we make the same change in this name as we did for the previous transfer motion? Because it's the same name as the
Yeah,
motion.
so Attorney Meridian, the next motion is going to be the transfer. And the way we have it here is that we're going to transfer it from Gerardo Rafael to Victoria Hall Bayside manager Roan Barbosa da Silva. Do you want it to be a different manager name?
Manager of the manager of the common victual license should also be Nadir Colo, as we just went through.
I just thought we did that.
That was the liquor license.
This is the victular license.
Yeah, two different things.
So Nadir, how do you say it?
Colo, Coelho.
Okay, I can read this one too. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following transfer of the common victualler license as it stands alone or in connection with a liquor license for the year 2023 from the Bayside Function Corporation, Gerardo Rafael, 1 Southwick Avenue, Nahant, Mass. 01908, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages, to Victoria Hall Bayside manager Nadir Colo, 1 Southwick Avenue, Nahant, Mass. 01908, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages.
Second, or
So
second,
moved.
I moved and seconded, okay.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll
Public-
call vote.
Public comment, Mr. Chair. It is another motion.
Yep, any public want to comment, raise your hand or put your name in the chat. So far, we don't have any.
Okay, roll call vote.
Josh,
Sorry, Josh Antrimai.
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
That should close up the Bayside transfers and renewals.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority, vote to approve the premises malt and wine liquor license to Turnstone Market LLC, manager Leslie Intopa, 157 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. 01908. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Second,
Seconded,
discussion.
Leslie, do you want to comment?
Yes, you need information. What do you, I mean, what I expect to do with it, or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm basically going to be selling wine, sort of a higher end wine that pairs with my food that I sell in the store, to kind of complement the food. I've had a lot of people ask if that was something I could offer, and I thought it was time to reach out and try to do something like that. It'll just be wine. I don't plan on selling any beer.
But that would make it available to be sold.
Mhm.
What, this is a malt liquor. This is a wine and liquor license, not a, I do believe there's a separate license for the beer.
Is there a difference in a malt?
Well, if she's not selling it, it's not an issue now, but I do believe there is, but it's not really for just, we don't need to discuss it tonight. But we should ask for public comment, given that this is a hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's anyone else that wants to speak on this, please raise your hand or put your name in the chat and we will ask you to unmute.
Okay. Hearing no comments and no further discussion, roll call vote.
Josh Antrimai.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mr. Chair, just for the edification, there is a license for all liquors, and there's a separate license for wine and I'm sorry, all alcoholic beverages, and a separate license for wine and liquor. That's a distinction I was making. This license is for wine and liquor, not for all alcoholic beverages.
I think, Dan.
Sure. We close the hearing at this point.
Not all liquors, beer and wine, right?
All alcoholic beverage does cover beer and wine, but the wine and malt liquor, I believe, is less inclusive.
I think that's just beer and wine.
Okay, well, I'm saying it's not the same thing. That's all I'm
Okay.
saying.
Okay.
Do you
All right,
need a motion to close the hearing, Dan?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. I move to close the public hearing on the alcohol licenses.
And the victular licenses.
Yes.
Seconded,
Seconded, yes.
any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Josh Antrimai.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
I move that we have some common victular licenses to approve. Yeah.
Well, so these ones are renewals. So these ones didn't need a public hearing. So these ones we can just go right through the motion.
Okay,
We can take them all together.
Yep, so that's how it's listed in your packet. You read it just like that.
Thank you.
missing it here. Hold on one. Josh, you want to take this? I can't find.
Yep. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following liquor license renewal applications for 2023 to be approved by ABCC. Nahant Country Club, 280 Nahant Road, club license, all alcoholic beverages. Nahant Knights of Columbus Building Association, Inc., 17 Relay Yard, club license, all alcoholic beverages. R&B Management, LLC, 1 Willow Road, license, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. Atlantic Functions, Inc., doing business as Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. R&C Convenience Store, Inc., doing business as Seaside Variety, 141 Nahant Road, package store license, all alcoholic beverages. Tides at Nahant, Inc., 2B Wilson Road, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certification form.
Seconded.
What, if I could, Tony, what's the process or the procedure for inspecting these? Who does that, inspects the businesses?
Our health inspector, our health agent, John Coulon.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to do it to make sure that the alcohol wasn't watered down, but we stopped that practice.
What would you find out? Okay. Discussion? Hearing none? Roll call vote.
Josh Antrimai?
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
aye. Josh, want me to take this?
Sure.
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the common victual licenses as stands alone or in connection with a liquor license for the year 2023 for the following establishments: Atlantic Functions, Inc., DBA, Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, Tides at Nahant, 2B Wilson Road, Nahant Country Club, 280 Nahant Road, R&B Management, LLC, 1 Willow Road, Nahant Knights of Columbus Building Association, DBA, Nahant Knights of Columbus, 17 Relay Yard, Seaside Variety, 141 Nahant Road, Seaside Pizza, 149 Nahant Road, Nahant Preservation Trust, Nahant Life Saving Station, 96 Nahant Road, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Seconded.
Discussion?
Yeah, so that was the common vic licenses. I think we
We skipped the entertainment one, yeah.
we skipped entertainment, but we'll come back to it right after this one.
Okay.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Josh Antrimai?
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following entertainment licenses for 2023 for the following establishments: Knights of Columbus, 17 Relay Yard, 5 TVs, 5 musicians, DJ, and pool table and jukebox. Nahant Country Club, 280 Nahant Road, TV, live music, DJ. Atlantic Functions, Inc., DBA, Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, live music, DJ. R&B Management, LLC, 1 Willow Road, live music, DJ, jukebox, karaoke. Tides at Nahant, 2B Wilson Road, 10 TVs, 2 amusement devices, live music, karaoke. Bayside Function Corp., DBA, The Bayside, 1 Southwick Avenue, jukebox, 7-piece orchestra, non-amplified. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certificate form.
Seconded.
Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Not killing I.
Gene Canty, aye.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the used car dealer licenses Class 2 for calendar year 2023 for George Mastalis, DBA Seaside Auto, Francis Burrell, DBA Nahant Garage. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fees, fines, payments to the town of Nahant, and authorize the town administrator to sign the licensing authority certification form.
Seconded.
Discussion. No discussion, roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Not
Gene
killing I.
Canty, aye.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to open the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
Seconded.
Discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to kind of go over the budget timeline and what we're doing here. Tonight is our official budget kickoff for the 2023 annual town meeting. So tonight you are officially opening the warrant. The January 31st is the deadline by bylaw for articles submitted by citizen petition. The Board of Selectmen have a similar policy for boards and committees who seek to request a town meeting warrant article to submit by the end of January. What we're doing right now is starting to develop our budget and develop that town meeting warrant. We'll be receiving our department head requests for budget next week, and we'll be putting together our first draft of our budget for the Board of Selectmen to consider over the next few weeks. Our plan is to have our first draft submitted to the Finance Committee by the middle of February. Also, another notable deadline is the Community Preservation Committee. They held a meeting last night. Anyone interested in submitting an application for a CPC grant, you can go on to our website and watch the video of last night's meeting. The application will be available on our website, and that is due by the end of January. So in mid-February, we will be submitting our initial draft of the warrant and budget to the Finance Committee. At that point, we'll continue throughout February and April to meet with the Finance Committee and discuss what our priorities are and the budget that we've submitted to them. We have the ability to open the warrant to make adjustments to either the budget or any warrant articles throughout that time. The Finance Committee budget recommendations and book is scheduled to be finalized in early April so that it can be submitted to our printer and distributed appropriately according to the bylaw to all Nahant voters 4 weeks prior to town meeting, which would be April 14th. And then 14 days prior to town meeting, May 6th, we'll post the annual town meeting warrant in 4 public places. The book will be delivered to doorstep 7 days prior to town meeting, which is May 13th. That final week leading up to town meeting, we'll meet with the Finance Committee and finalize our motions. And town meeting is scheduled for Saturday, May 20th, 2023.
That's good.
Thanks for doing it.
Discussion.
And so again, you mentioned this, Tony, but just for any individuals, groups, committees, organizations that plan to submit a application to the CPC, Tony, I was thinking, you mentioned the end of January. I was thinking I had previously heard the date of January 27th. But in any event, I'd encourage those folks to get their applications in early. It helps the committee sort through them all and prioritize them and whatnot.
That's the date that I have on my calendar here as well. I did not attend the Community Preservation Committee meeting last night, so I'm not sure if that was finalized. I know that their goal is to have applications in before the end of January. So the deadline will be listed on the application, though.
Tony, what are the criteria for submitting a grant? It's for open space?
Open space, recreation, historical preservation, and housing.
Okay, thanks.
Somebody has, sounds like this meeting on like a delay in the background. Unless it's possibly me. Let me close this door.
I hear it too. I don't know, Mark or Gene, if you guys have
Not
it playing in the back.
No, not me.
I mean,
Well, now I don't hear it. So,
Might have been mine.
okay.
roll call vote on this, please.
Yeah,
Josh Antrim, aye?
Mark Cullen and
Gene Canty, aye.
I. Preserving East Point. I guess, Josh, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I get, apparently Judge Kopp had recently, the last day or two, made a decision on a motion by Northeastern to compel Nahant Preservation Trust to release any documents or information between the trust and the town under the cooperation agreement between the town and MPT. And the judge ruled that that information would be protected under the Lawyer and Client Privilege Act. So hopefully with that decision being made, we'll get into depositions in January and get this moving again. I'm not sure if you're aware of anything else going on there.
No, just that's the only significant thing that I know of. And I think it's, like you said, now that some of this wrangling about depositions and this protected attorney-client privilege documents is settled, I think it sounds like the discovery and depositions will start to accelerate.
Does this move anything up any more in the timetable when you have these decisions by a judge?
Well, the judge has decided on who can be deposed, and they've now decided on this provision. So I think the next thing will be to schedule those depositions.
Okay.
Yeah, I did have a chance to talk to Jim Ponzetto, our one of our attorneys today, and that was his conclusion, that this, now we probably start to get into the depositions now. So kind of a long time coming.
Any further discussion? Tony, Town Administrator's report.
Okay, first I'd like to say that the Emergency Management Department and the Department of Public Works have been closely monitoring the storm that's planned to hit us on Friday. We're concerned about the level of wind and rain and the high tide on Friday morning. So we're preparing for potential some coastal flooding, and high winds could lead to some downed trees and power outages. So we'll be putting a robocall out tomorrow for all of those on the call. Please keep in mind of that upcoming weather, and and do your best to prepare for it. Next,
It looks, Tony, like it, from the last report I saw, it's coming from the winds are coming from the southwest. That'll be Willow Road and the Wharf in that area, not so much the north side. Or Shot Beach perhaps, but so it certainly looks like anybody that you want to check your boats, anything that's loose down the wharf, check that again, make sure there's nothing floating around, because we are supposed to have astronomical high tides, I think 11.3 feet. And with 50 to 70 mile-an-hour winds, that could cause quite a bit of splash over on the wharf parking lot.
right. So our Public Works Department has been working all week fortifying entrances to the beaches and other low areas where we typically have splash over. We likely won't be able to prevent it all. But they will also, I think starting tomorrow, will be pumping down Bear Pond to build up some capacity. We expect the golf course to see some flooding. And we have some emergency pumps and generators prepared for deployment. So we're in pretty good shape. Hopefully it's just that one tide that we have to worry about. Next, I want to quickly talk about last night's Lowland neighborhood meeting. It was an excellent meeting with most primarily residents from the Lowlands neighborhood, and we had our consultants from Dubois and King, Amy and Chris, on the phone as well. And we recapped the stormwater alternative analysis that they completed for us over the past year. There's a lot of detailed information on that. It's on our website. We are happy to kind of be moving past the alternative analysis stage and start looking forward towards design and permitting of some of the infrastructure solutions that they're recommending. A lot of what Dubois and King's scope of work really had to deal with is daily drainage and dewatering abilities after a flood. Simultaneously, the town is engaged with other consultants and grant applications towards improving climate change preparedness, so preventing floods from occurring. So we have a lot. Climate change and sea level rise has been a focus of the Board of Selectmen, and I. It's a goal of ours for this year is to make some strong strides there. So happy to go through that last night with the neighborhood, and look forward to taking the next steps. And I know many of you were on as well. If you have any comments to add.
Just that I thought that you and our consultants did a great job, and it appears that people in the impacted area were quite satisfied with the results of the report. So good job, and thanks for getting through this.
Yes, same thing here, Tony. Excellent job.
Okay, thank you. So next, I know, as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman, it seems like we have a lot of folks on the call. Certainly seems to be regarding coyotes, and we've seen a lot of action on social media and other media forms regarding the vote that the Board of Selectmen took 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to provide a little bit of a recap there, and then we'll get into citizens forum. It's helpful for everyone to have some context for how we got to this point. To make sure everyone is on the same page, I'm going to start by recapping what the town has experienced and how we have responded over the past couple of years. Before I get into that, I want to reiterate that the Board of Selectmen and I, over the past 2 years, have focused on educating our residents on how to coexist with coyotes. We're going to continue to emphasize how to prevent conflicts with coyotes and how to respond properly to interactions with coyotes. All residents, whether you are in support or in opposition of the town engaging with USDA Wildlife Services. You have to understand that we are not attempting to eliminate coyotes from our community. The presence of coyotes in Nahant is likely to continue, and it is our responsibility to follow the guidance of the professionals on how to coexist with these animals. The town of Nahant is currently dealing with an issue of problem or habituated animals. We are not the first town to be authorized to eliminate a problem animal. Again, this is not an effort of population control. This is not an effort to eliminate all current or future coyotes in our community. We are following the guidance of Mass Wildlife, who has authorized us to eliminate problem animals that do not fear human interaction. The town of Nahant has experienced the presence of coyotes. About 10 years ago, we had coyotes in the town of Nahant, and at the time, the community hosted well-attended public meetings where professionals provided information about how to coexist with coyotes. It was very similar information to that of what we have provided recently. Over the past 2 years, the presence of coyotes has increased, and over the past year, we have had multiple aggressive interactions between coyotes and our residents and their pets. We have had multiple pets taken by coyotes in our community, most of which were not under the direct control of a human being. And therefore, we've had to engage with a lot of residents and educate them about the biology of coyotes and the behavior of coyotes and how to prevent those types of conflicts to occur. We've educated our residents on the importance of eliminating food sources for coyotes, and we've educated them on the importance of keeping your pets under your control and how to interact with a coyote if you were to engage with one. In our community being 1 square mile, it's a little bit of a forced interaction occurring between coyotes and our residents. So they don't have, unlike other communities, coyotes here don't have much room to be not interacting with our residents. And so that's why it's extremely important that we continue to emphasize the responsibility of our residents on how to interact with coyotes when you see them. Follow the guidance that Mass Wildlife and other professionals have provided us. It's listed on our website, and I will show that in a moment. We're going to continue to work with Mass Wildlife and other professionals in the future to really emphasize that importance. When 2 years ago, when coyotes first started to show up again in the town of Nahant, it was we've come a long way from that. I think at that point, our residents were interested and curious, and tended to almost like take a picture of a coyote or not haze it in any manner until and then over the last 2 years, we've engaged with Mass Wildlife to share the importance to our residents that is the improper way to act. It's our residents who are walking, whether you're walking a dog or not, on a regular basis. When you are out in our community and you encounter a coyote, it's extremely important that you attempt to haze that coyote, not only for your benefit, but for your neighbor's benefit. It's extremely important that we maintain that approach so that coyotes that live in Nahant have a fear of human interaction. And in that, if we can establish that, then we can coexist with them. As I mentioned, over the last 2 years, we've had professionals from Project Coyote present public forums. We've had mass wildlife biologists present at public forums. We've held multiple public meetings, and it's been an agenda item on the Board of Selectmen's meetings almost consistently over the last 2 years. We've worked with Mass Wildlife to develop a website. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. We've handed out, we've distributed almost 1,000 whistles to our residents. We've distributed almost 500 pocket air horns to our residents. We developed a mailer postcard titled Mass Wildlife's Recommendations for Coexisting with Coyotes. We sent this to every household in the community, and on this postcard is a QR code that you can scan that would bring you to our website where we have additional information. I mean, we've done robocalls. We've put signage out and around our community, and I want to just I want to share my screen and show you the website and other things that we've done over the years. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is nahant.org. When you go to our home screen, right here on the front page is a picture of a coyote, titled Coyote Information. If you click on this, it brings you to our website. Most other communities will have a link that brings you directly to the state's website, but we felt it was important to have our own community-based site for our residents to be able to research on. And the first thing we have here is we developed a matrix of coyote behaviors and recommendations on what a resident can do in those types of behaviors, how the town will respond to those types of reports, and if we are filling out an official animal control officer report and then submitting it to Mass Wildlife. We have this separated in non-aggressive behaviors and aggressive behaviors. For example, if a resident cited a coyote or heard a coyote moving through the area, we've suggested they contact the animal control officer or contact Mass Wildlife. We have information that we can provide them. And in that scenario, it's not an aggressive behavior. So we're educating our residents on that and determining whether or not we're going to be filling out a report. In that scenario, we would not. As behaviors become aggressive, it enters into a different category where if it's immediate, we're saying contact Nahant Police Department and we'll be dispatched to assist you in that moment. And then they are reporting that to our animal control officer, who will then respond to you to get more information about that event. We'll be filling out a report and sharing that with Mass Wildlife. If you continue to scroll down, on Wednesday, July 6th, Dave Waters, who I see on the call, joined us in a community meeting that was well attended and full of excellent information. That the link to that video is right here on our website. Below this video, we have a link for coyote facts and info. If you click on that, it'll bring up common, frequently asked questions. This document was also developed with the help of Mass Wildlife. This document helps educate residents about the behavior of coyotes, how to prevent interaction, how to interact with them when you do interact with them. Talks a lot about what the town can and cannot do. Below that, we have a link to Mass Wildlife's mass.gov website where you can find a problem animal control agent. So the town looked into finding a problem animal control agent, but residents could also hire a problem animal control agent on their own. If you click on this link, it brings you to mass.gov and it allows you to search for problem animal control officers in your area. Below this, we have a lot of information that we got from Mass Wildlife that we felt was really important to kind of highlight on the website, because as over the past 2 years, where our residents were, fearful of coyotes and not really unsure about, what to do and what could the town do, we really wanted to educate them on, why the town of Nahant is not in a position to control the coyote population. We've done a lot of education with our community about that. So while we have a lot of residents in town that are afraid of coyotes and wanted the community to act to reduce the population, we were responding to that by educating them as to why we were not in a position to do so. There is no hunting allowed in our community. There's a bylaw in Nahant that does not allow the discharge of firearms. But even if that wasn't the case, there's a state law that does not allow you to hunt within 500 feet of a structure. And Nahant being so dense, there really isn't anywhere in town that you would not be within 500 feet of a dwelling. So essentially hunting, which is the main act of controlling a population, is not allowed in Nahant. There is a legal regulated hunting season for coyotes in Massachusetts. It's just not allowed in Nahant because of how dense we are and because of our bylaw. Trapping is allowed when you have a problem animal that you're trying to deal with and you're authorized by Mass Wildlife. And that's when you reach out to a problem animal control officer to engage in that activity. We looked into this issue or this potential option, and the issues we realized quickly was that many problem animal control officers in our area do not engage in the form of trapping because the only legal trap since 1996 is a large box trap, which coyotes are very reluctant to enter. You also have to repeatedly bait the trap in order to get them somewhat comfortable, which can lead to creation of problem animals. So not only is the trap ineffective and not practical, but a lot of problem animal control officers don't engage in this activity because of that. And according to Mass Wildlife, over the last 10 years, only 3 coyotes have been trapped in that trap in the entire state over the last 10 years. So it's an extremely ineffective method. Relocation, when you're dealing with a problem animal, which the town of Nahant is, you are not allowed to relocate that. So we've gotten a lot of comments from folks and concerns saying, why don't you just relocate the animal instead of eliminating it? When you're dealing with a problem animal or a habituated animal, you're not allowed to relocate that to some other community and essentially hand your problem off to someone else. It's not allowed. So that's not an option. And then there's lethal removal. The lethal removal option is local, state, and environmental police have the ability to legally dispatch a coyote. Our police officers are not wildlife professionals. They are not equipped with the proper equipment to take this on. And as I mentioned, the town of Nahant is extremely dense. And so not a viable option for us. If you continue to scroll down the website, we also provide information about the 3 main components to preventing conflict with coyotes, removing human-associated food sources, and aggressively hazing coyotes and protecting your pets. And there's a lot of information here about all 3 of those items. lastly, here we have a link that brings you to the mass.gov website related to coyotes, and there's a ton of information available for folks here. And then lastly, we developed a hot zone map where we basically, from where a lot of the reports came in that coyotes were being seen on a regular basis. These are areas that tend to have a little bit more open space in our town. We developed this to let our residents know where they're commonly seen, and we put out signage that looks like this in these areas. Again, the QR code is right on that sign, and the phone number to our police department is right on that sign. So these signs are distributed across the town in those areas to help people understand that they should be on high alert. And there's a QR code where they can, immediately get to our website for more information or do so later on. So I really wanted to show, I think a lot of the comments that we were getting after 2 weeks ago, our vote was, the importance of doing these things instead. Dave Waddles is on the phone, and I'm sure he'd be happy to comment on the fact that the town of Nahant has been doing a lot of those things. And over the last year, early in the spring, the town of Nahant had 3 separate events where animals were taken by coyotes. Actually, the first event was a pet was bit by a coyote while on the leash. That pet did not survive later on. The other 2 events were pets taken directly off of the leash. Those events were reported to Mass Wildlife, and at that time we were authorized to attempt to dispatch those problem animals. At that time, the town looked into those methods that I talked about, potentially hiring a problem animal control officer, and looking into the trapping option. And as I mentioned earlier, we realized there was a lot of hurdles or ineffectiveness in those options. While we were going through that, a lot of the aggressive behavior had somewhat diminished or subsided. We weren't getting, over the summer, we didn't get as many, we didn't really get any reports of aggressive behavior. So at that point, we felt it was possible that those problem animals had left our community. And then in the most recent couple months, we've had multiple reports again of aggressive behavior where groups of coyotes were surrounding residents at different times while walking their dog. Luckily, those attempts by coyotes were unsuccessful, but they were aggressive events towards our residents. So we reported those to Mass Wildlife, and again, Mass Wildlife said, "Okay, you have animals here who are comfortable approaching human beings in order, and probably more so in an attempt to take the pet, not to attack the human, but comfortable enough to approach your residents, and you need to deal with that problem." So we once again discussed the options that are far limited and started discussing the potential of signing an agreement with USDA to come in and help us with this problem. And that's the vote that we took 2 weeks ago. So again, what we're doing with USDA is very specific to dealing with problem habituated animals that are aggressive towards our residents, trying to prevent what happened in the spring or worse. This is not an attempt to control the population or eliminate all current coyotes or future coyotes from our town. Most 99% of our effort, 99.99% of our effort is focused on educating our residents and on how to coexist with coyotes. We are, it's very likely that we're going to be living amongst coyotes in the future. And we strongly believe that the responsibility is on us and our residents to take the guidance from professionals and learn how to coexist with these animals, because they're likely here to stay. With that, Dave, if you want to add to anything I just said.
Yeah, sure. A couple of things. The behaviors that you're seeing in Nahant are not typical for coyotes. We do not get these reports of attacks on dogs on leash, packs of coyotes surrounding and approaching people on the street. That is not something that is typical in Massachusetts. Attacks on dogs in backyards, attacks on cats that are unsupervised, off leash. Those are common behaviors. And unfortunately, it is natural behavior for the coyote. So in those circumstances, we try to educate the pet owner that you have to be responsible for your animal. But that's not what's happening in the hunt. You know, these animals are showing zero fear of people. And the actions that were proposed and offered to the town are to prevent to resolve a human health and safety issue. And that's what it is. I do want to compliment the town. I do not know of a single town in Massachusetts who has done as comprehensive a job as Nahant in trying to educate and work with their community, and provide the amount of information, the hazing tools that you have to your community. And so you have done everything you can to try to resolve this issue through non-lethal avenues. And again, I just do want to stress that this is an attempt to remove these animals that pose a public safety threat. There will be an expectation that next year, if a coyote comes down the causeway, that you will be coexisting it. We won't just grant you permission to kill coyotes because they're a general annoyance or people are uncomfortable with them around the community. But to resolve a public safety threat, we do feel that this is the best course of action.
Hey, Dave, Gene Canty, just one question. What brought us to this point?
To this point, it is the behavior of the coyotes, and that they pose a human health and safety threat, a threat to the public. It is an attempt to prevent someone from being bitten and injured by a coyote. In Massachusetts in recent years, the vast majority of bites of people have resulted from intentional feeding by people in that community. The other bites are, generally speaking, the results of someone trying to protect their pet, trying to protect their dogs. So in circumstances where a coyote is attacking a dog, the person tries to defend it and they end up being bitten and injured. With the behavior of coyotes approaching people that are walking their dogs, clearly with the intent to go after them, there's a very high likelihood that someone could be involved and bitten in those circumstances. Or, you know, when they're approaching these dogs on leash, that someone intervenes and they end up being bitten and injured. So it's an attempt to protect the people in the hunt and the public safety. And in this circumstance, we are placing the health and safety of the citizens in the hunt ahead of the coyotes. Again, we're not going to eliminate coyotes in Massachusetts. The division has a very strong record of supporting coyotes. We consider them a valuable part of our natural ecosystem here in Massachusetts, and we have some of the most protective laws and regulations about coyotes anywhere in the country. But we are going to prioritize human health and safety over the animal in these circumstances.
Thank you, Dave.
I also want to state that we, over the last 2 years, we've worked with Dave on hand in hand with our animal control officer and the selectmen and myself on how do we investigate reports that come into our community about interactions with coyotes. You know, the reports that we're submitting up to Mass Wildlife are not reports of, you know, social media comments or hearsay type of scenarios. These incidents are being investigated by town officials in direct contact with the person that's had that interaction. And we're asking very specific questions about where were you? What time? How many coyotes? How close were they? Did you have a pet? Where's your pet on a leash? Did you attempt to haze the animal? What was your type, what was your hazing technique? How did the animal respond? You know, very important information that Dave taught us was important to gather. There's, as I mentioned earlier, we've been dealing with this for over 2 years now. And I would say that a majority of those incidents that we've investigated resulted in non-aggressive behavior. They resulted in behaviors that didn't meet the threshold that would authorize the town to eliminate that coyote. And much of the time, it resulted in us educating the resident on the difference between those types of behaviors. And so I say that because I want the public to understand that the town has been very diligent on filtering through the reports that we've received, and that the decision recently to attempt to eliminate these problem animals was not done just because of a public fear or because of a nuisance or unvetted reports. These are legitimate situations where we are put in a position to, you know, guided by mass wildlife to attempt to prevent what happened in the town in the spring or something worse. So I think that's important to say as well. Any other member of the board want to say anything before we get to public forum?
I'll just say thank you, Dr. Waddles, for joining us tonight. And Tony, that was an excellent recap of you know, the history and the education attempts we've made, and very well presented. So thanks.
Yeah, I would second that, Josh. And again, Dr. Waddles, thanks for not only for joining us tonight, but for the years of service that you provided us. We really appreciate it. Just, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that there are a lot of people joining us tonight. So before we get into citizens forum, I just wanted to remind people that this is a residence forum. And when you speak, if you state your name and your address, we'll be listening to residents of Nahant. Unless the chair feels otherwise, I think that's the way we should go.
I would just like to add that this is, and we've talked about this so many times, it's not a long-term solution. It's a stopgap measure. It gives us an opportunity to take another look at this, to dispatch the very coyotes we're talking about that are in existence right now, and to be able to continue to push the program Tony's talking about. Tony has done a fabulous job with this. So with that, I would say we're on the right track.
Okay, so we're going to get to citizens forum. Again, keep in mind that this meeting is going to end at 8:30. So keep your comments to 2 minutes if you can. We want to try and hear from everybody. Just either raise your hand or in the chat, let me know your name and address. I will call on you and ask you to unmute. I don't know if I'll be able, if we're going to have time to engage in a ongoing discussion with each commenter, but we will, you know, this meeting is being recorded and we will be taking all those comments and questions under consideration, and we'll do our best to get back to you at a later time. Okay, so first on my list is Francine.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just quickly want to recognize two people that are on the call. We have Katie Nolan from In Defense of Animals, which is a national organization, and Renee Secor from Project Coyote are also on the call with us, and Rebecca Dimitrick, which is terrific. Okay, a couple points, and I'll try to make this really quick. If the town is going to go ahead with a really bad decision
Francine,
in that it is going to leave us. Yeah?
could you just
Can you
make
hear
State your
me?
name and address.
your
Oh,
name and
I'm sorry, Francine Amari Faulkner, 295 Nahant Road. So if the town is going to go ahead with this decision, which is basically going to make things much more difficult when we come back to then have to deal with a partial fragmented coyote unit where now you've got, you know, a dominant pair fractured and you've got potential juveniles left. And now you've got another coyote pack moving in from some other place. So there's going to be all this upset. So I'm repeating that, you know, to let our coyote expert from California come in, work with what we've got for a couple weeks, see what happens. So if the town is going to go ahead with this pretty severe plan, and basically you don't have any plan going forward with how you're going to educate the public and have a fine mechanism in place. So there are reasons why people don't repeat the behavior that's caused some of this problem. Okay, so that's one thing. I understand all the work the selectmen and the town administrator have done with trying to educate the public, but it's not working. People are not going to the website, and most of the education has been left up to residents. We need a more proactive program in place to educate residents, and that's what the experts from California would also be bringing to us. Okay, so the other really important thing I want to bring up is our team has mapped all the police reports in the last year. And what we found is that there's really no facts to persuade that there's an actual public safety threat. There's no humans were ever attacked. Most of the calls were falsely claiming. There was even a poster put up that claimed humans were attacked. There were never any investigations done about these claims, none that we could find. So Tony and the selectmen, I know you said there is, but we cannot find any information. Where is this information that were actual investigations? There was even a 911 call that reported several coyotes had rabies. The police never found anything. So these are just false claims that are fueling the hysteria. And we're questioning, is there really a public safety threat? I personally have chased 4 coyotes off the baseball field. They exhibit fear. There's no question they didn't run from me. I did that to reinforce you need to stay afraid of people. I did it to protect them. There was no problem with them running from me. 4 of them on more than one occasion. So what I'm wondering is what substantiates Mass Wildlife's claim that this is a public safety threat? And I'm not pointing the finger at Dave Waddles, but what I'm suggesting is that he's been given exaggerated information, and that's what everybody's reacting to. It really does come down to public education, and we need to really, really do a great job at that. But it's got to be more than what's being done, because what's being done is not working, and it's creating hysteria. Okay, so where are the substantiated reports and what has really been investigated? There's been no bites on people. And in the spring, you have to remember they have pups. The behavior is going to be different in the spring than it's going to be, later on. And like you even said, in the last 6 months, there's been nothing. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Thank you.
Francine, Jane Canty, if you would check the Nahant police report, 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my living room watching a football game, and I heard all this screeching and almost like the sound of a baby crying or screeching. And I looked out, I thought I heard a human voice. I said, I've got to go check this out in case somebody's out there and there's a problem. There were 6 of them. And they were in a frenzy. It took me a while to use the terminology, but they were in a frenzy. I went out, I started up my driveway, they backed me down on my garage, and I went in the garage, called the police, and the police came and dispersed them. That is not good behavior.
Okay, thank you. Margie, I'm trying to find you on here so I can unmute you. Parisi?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could state your
So,
name and address.
My name is Margaret Parisi, 15 Prospect Street. Now, how do we know that the coyotes territory does not go into Lynn? Because according to the state has video cameras along Long Beach. They see coyotes coming in and out all the time. So how do we know how their territory?
Dave, do you want to attempt to speak about coyote territory?
Yeah, we don't necessarily specifically know, exactly what their territory is, but clearly a portion of their territory is Nahant itself. It's a distinct possibility that they're using the causeway because coastal environments provide a lot of natural food. As things get washed up on the shore, that's a place where they could be just one of the places that they're feeding. It may be the reason that they're using the causeway. Whether or not they're spending time in Lynn as well, they very well may be. But I certainly think that it seems that the majority of these animals' time is on Nahant itself. I did want to comment, just about the spring. There's no question that the spring, when they're in defense of the den, it can be a time where they are more aggressive towards dogs. You're also approaching the mating season right now, which January, February into March is the mating season. And that is another time of year where we tend to see much higher levels of aggression towards dogs and larger dogs at that time as well, as they see those, they interpret those as threats in their territory, just like they would another coyote. So, these aren't isolated necessarily to a certain time of year, just in terms of that argument.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Candace Cahill.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please state your name and address.
This is Candace Cahill, 20 Rollins Avenue. I do have a question for Dave Waddles. When you talk about, or when they talk about luring the coyotes in order to, whatever word you want to use, eliminate, how do you know that you're taking the aggressive coyotes and not just a hungry coyote? What is the plan? And this is also for the Board of Selectmen next year when the coyotes come back. And I'm assuming, Dave Waddles, and I apologize that I don't know all of your background, but when my understanding is coyotes have a family unit, and if you disrupt that family unit, you're kind of really opening up the possibility of having other coyote families come in from outside this territory. So I guess that's a concern to me, what exactly we're doing there. That's really my question.
Sure. The first point you brought up is one that unfortunately is valid. There's no way to determine which animal is the one that is the offending animal. We're talking about responding to behaviors that happened earlier in the year, behaviors that have now continued into the fall, where you have large groups of coyotes that are being aggressive towards people, at least 6. There were estimates that there were 12 animals. I heard reports that 10 and 12 animals were seen on the beach and in different locations in town at different times. That is likely a mated pair, as well as some pups from last year, and then the pups that were born this spring that are now nearly fully grown. If it happens to be that the mated pair is removed, those pups are going to be the ones, again, they're nearly fully grown. They become sexually mature at a very young age. They're going to be the ones that are going to establish a territory or maintain a territory in Nahant. The fact that Nahant is isolated, relatively speaking, compared to other portions of Massachusetts, it's less likely that animals are going to be moving in, freely as you would in mainland Massachusetts, if you will, where it's a more open system to coyotes in interaction. I've heard this argument said that, it won't be effective to remove these animals. If we were trying to control coyote numbers in Nahant, for example, you'd be exactly correct. If we remove these animals, transient animals immediately come in and the pack becomes reestablished, and essentially the population rebounds very, very quickly back to the same level. We're not trying to do population control here. It is trying to remove these animals that are posing a public safety threat. But you are correct. Unfortunately, there's no way to immediately identify those aggressive animals. So it will be removing a number of animals, perhaps then waiting, seeing if the behaviors reside. And if they do, then there's no need to continue with any action. If they are maintained, there may be a plan to remove more animals. But the plan, again, as Tony has stated before, and as we've stated in the past, it will be imperative that the people of Nahant take our messaging seriously, take the same messaging from Project Coyote and the other folks who have provided information. Never, ever provide any food towards coyotes. So you're not habituating them and having them associate people with food, act aggressively towards them, haze them. So these animals that remain or animals that come to Nahant don't develop these aggressive behaviors in the future.
Thanks, Dave. Peter Barba.
Yeah, Pete Barber, 22 Emerald Road. First of all, I want to say thank you to the selectmen and to you, Tony, for all the work that you've done. I think us having our own town webpage dedicated to coyotes is really important. I know you've been working with Mr. Waddles for a long time, and I'm sure others. I really know that this is a difficult decision for the selectmen to make. I've known, all three of them, and I don't believe any of them are, want to go out and just, hunt coyotes and kill them. I do know that a lot of I have to disagree with Francine. I don't believe that while there may be some stories that get exaggerated, I think that there are a lot of stories out there. I believe there's 50 or more domesticated animals that have been taken. The ones you mentioned earlier on leash, but many of them that, hey, I have 2 cats and they're old and they like to try and escape from the house. So it happens. I think that this is a public safety issue. I applaud the selectmen for making this decision. And I hope that the townspeople can learn, to start hazing or continue hazing. I agree with Francine. We should have some sort of bylaw or some sort of ticketing system that if you get caught feeding a coyote, it's $100 fine and a $500 fine and so on to curtail people from putting food out, because I believe that people have even mistakenly put food out for, maybe a neighbor's cat or something. Any type of food like that is going to, draw coyotes in and give them extra food. Maybe we need to do something with our trash barrels to make our trash barrels a little bit more, protected against them. So I think there's still more work that we can do, but I think for the time being, taking out the aggressive animals right now is a public safety. And again, I thank the selectmen for their decision. Thank you.
Thank you. You brought up a bylaw and trash barrels. We do have a bylaw related to how you handle food waste and feeding and preventing the unintentional feeding of animals and the intentional feeding of animals. It's something that we're looking at with town council on potentially strengthening and presenting at the upcoming town meeting. So we do have something in place, more to do there to strengthen it. And, I know that I will say that our residents have come a long way. I think that, what once was, and not just residents, town staff and officials have come a long way too. What once was, a community that we had a lot of leash law issues where a lot of residents were not, keeping their animals on a leash, where we had, maybe some illegal feeding or unintentional feeding of wildlife that led to feeding of coyotes. A lot of that has diminished over the last couple of years. And even to the point where, 2 years, a year and a half ago, when we got a call or a report about a coyote issue, a lot of, we were criticized a lot about just saying there's nothing we can do. We've grown from that, and we've learned how to respond to those things appropriately and educate our residents. So I think that, our residents have come a long way on eliminating those food sources, and our officials have come a long way on educating residents. I think that remains to be our main focus going forward as well. And for those professionals who have offered their services to help us, I hope that they remain committed to our community and help us in the future to do even more. We did vote at the last town meeting. We voted to invest in recycling bins for all of our residents, and we have implemented that, and it's helped a lot, preventing pollution and unintentional feeding. The Board of Selectmen and I have talked a little bit about doing the same with trash barrels. So that is something that we might be pursuing at an upcoming town meeting as well. Emily Potts.
Emily Potts, 114 Pond Street. I have a question that is related to this, and that is about bird feeding. Will we ever be, and this is maybe for Dr. Waddles, will we ever be able to feed birds again? Because last summer when I quit, maybe in the spring, the mosquitoes came back in force. And that seems to me to be sort of a health problem in this area. And I just wonder what the implications are of if we stop. Do we have to stop it forever?
I am responsible for managing black bears and coyotes and a lot of the species that cause a lot of conflict with the public. And food around our homes is the driver of that conflict. Coyotes will eat birdseed, particularly suet, but they will eat birdseed as well. But it's also all the animals that they attract. The rodents that come in and eat the seed on the ground, that is their natural prey base. So they're going to be eating the squirrels, the chipmunks, the mice, the rats there. So it's that secondary feeding is probably the worst part for coyotes rather than the birdseed itself. If we were talking bears, it would be the birdseed itself. But it's difficult for me to say, and I understand the joy that people take from bird feeding. It's a conversation I have quite often with folks. I understand your concern about mosquitoes as well. It's just, unfortunately, food around your homes is the big driver of this issue. It really is. If you really have to feed birds, trying to do everything you can to prevent the seed from getting on the ground is going to be the big thing. So if there's a way that you can have an elevated bird feeder with a pan or something that catches the seed, prevents it going on the ground so that coyotes can't access it, that is not attracting rodents, but it's in being diligent about cleaning up any seed that does fall. But unfortunately, bird feeders are one of those attractants for drivers of this type of conflict.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so those are the residents. If it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, we do have a couple non-residents professionals that are requesting to speak. I'd like to give them a moment of time.
Tony, I did see Ms. Hall with her hand up.
Oh,
She's waving.
I don't have it on my. Oh, here we go. Let me ask, please unmute, announce your name and address. Please.
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Hall. I live on 73 Wharf Street. I want to say thank you for all that you've done. Just your recap gave me actually a lot more information, even though I've looked at it. It was helpful to see. And just to, reiterate that we all have been thinking about this and not, it's not just a sudden decision. I know that you guys have put a lot of time and effort into that. And so that was mainly what I wanted to say. Also, secondary, I love my birds. I do feed my birds. But I have a ton of rabbits. I have the explosion of rabbits in other wildlife that we didn't have as much before, which I'm concerned about because we don't have the raccoons. We don't have the other, seems like a very imbalance to our ecosystem now at this point, and maybe something that Dr. Waddles can speak to. So I don't know if that plays a part in the fact that we have a much smaller food availability for them as well. Now that like I used to have raccoons, possum, skunk, fox, woodchucks in my yard. I don't even see those. All I see are rabbits, squirrels, of course, because I do feed the birds. But it's crazy the loss of other wildlife because of the larger population of coyotes in this area.
In most circumstances, this could be, an artifact of the isolated nature of Nahant, where in many instances, a lot of those animals, like the fox, for example, raccoons, those would be animals that coyotes are going to avoid. And, the fox will avoid coyotes and they can use the same area and coexist, if you will. It may be that in Nahant there are fewer places for the fox or some of these other animals to avoid coyotes, and so the coyotes do have a greater ability to prey on them or kill them as competitors. There's also times where just small shifts in the animal's behavior or habitat use patterns from year to year can make it seem that there are fluctuations in the populations that really aren't there. So I've been in my house for 5 years, and the first year we had fox all over the yard. 2 or 3 years, not a single fox. But if we talk to our neighbor who's out the back corner about 100 yards to the woods, they had fox denning under their deck. They had fox all over the place, and we're seeing them constantly. The past year, we've had fox in our yard again nonstop. So just, little shifts and we're talking, a couple 100 feet. And we weren't seeing them for a couple of years. So it doesn't necessarily, just because you're not seeing them, mean that they're not there.
I've lived here all my life. And I've never had a year where we up until the past 3 years, never had a year where I didn't have some of that going on. So the past 3 years has been none of the raccoon, skunks, opossums. I had them every year since I was a child on Wharf Street. So I live right near the Audubon area, and part of the land that I have has a very wild area that we don't have any buildings. So I'm surrounded by green space, and the fact that I have not had skunk, opossums, the woodchucks were here last year, but they're not here this year. But I had those animals in my yard every year. So the fact that I don't have, it's a remarkable reduction of seeing them. I just have not seen them in the past 3 years. So that to me, that is just indicative of the growth. I guess that's my feeling. And I understand that it does fluctuate and move, but I've always had them. So,
sure.
And I've never had rabbits like we've had the past 2 years. it's such an abundance of rabbits. They're faster, I suppose, but it's just been crazy. So I feel like that is just, to me, indicating an imbalance.
And you have a large number of coyotes in a very concentrated area. So as I said, they certainly will, they are above those animals in terms of the dominance hierarchy and will kill those animals and have the potential to provide some control. So it's a distinct possibility that is what is occurring.
Right. Yeah. Just the rabbits have boomed like nuts, so.
So thank you for your comment. I appreciate, your comments and what you've noticed and sharing that. I just want to be clear that, we stay on track with the fact that the town of Nahant is not trying to solve that issue or deal with, what the population of coyotes are in our town and how that's affecting other wildlife. That's not what the Board of Selectmen and I and Dave Waddles are trying to solve here. We are simply trying to deal with the animals that are considered to be habituated or problem animals and prevent, the aggressive behavior towards our residents. Okay, so let me see, where are we here? Linda Tamfini, if you could just state your name and address. You have to unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi. I'm sorry, I got on late, so I didn't hear a lot of what was going on. But
Can you just state your name and address?
oh, I'm
sir?
sorry, Linda Tanfani, 76 Fox Hill Road. I've lived here for 43 years. I agree with Miss Hall. I back up to the woods here. And we don't have any animals, but what we do have are these coyotes. And personally, I'm very scared of them. I have a small dog. Everybody on my street is the same way. Everyone I talk to say the same thing, is that they're scared to go out. They're scared to go out at night. Personally, I think the coyotes are beautiful. And if they weren't so deadly, yeah, let them live. Let them live among us. That would be great. But, a few weeks ago, I was playing pickleball and with a bunch of other ladies, and coyotes came out onto the playground. There were kids on the playground. It's too scary. And, they're ruling us. They're ruling over us. So, you were just talking about a dominance of, I don't know what comes first, a skunk, raccoon, whatever. But when coyotes are controlling our lives, the citizens' lives, our taxpayers' lives, we can't have it. We're too small of a town. Where are they going to go next? We're surrounded by water. Are they going to swim to Spain? I don't know. Where are they going to go? They can't go to the next town. We have 1.5 mile causeway. I know they can walk the causeway, but they just seem to be reproducing. And, I'm leaving next week. I'm going to Florida. I'll be able to actually breathe. I know I'll be able to breathe because I can't breathe here. And that's just me personally, but a lot of people that I talk to feel the same way. We can't breathe. We're always looking over our shoulders. We're tense all the time. I'm going to go down where there's alligators. Like I said, they take care of the alligators there. If we have them, they come on the golf course, they come into our residential area. You call the game warden, they come down, they take them away. There's no threat. There's a very large threat here. We've lost too many pets. Pets are family members. And when I saw those, the coyotes with the children, and Kelly Frary writes the same thing, she's in charge of children. And she sees the coyotes all the time at the playground. It's not right.
All right, thank you, Linda. Again, I appreciate your comments and I appreciate that that residents have a fear of coyotes, a general sense of fear. And when you're afraid of something, it's justified. I'm not, the town of Nahant, myself and the Board of Selectmen are not going to attempt to change, what you're afraid of. We understand that there's a legitimate sense of fear. One of the most difficult things that we've had to do over the last 2 years, and Linda is one of the people that has experienced this, is explain to our residents that your fear of the coyote is not something that is going to put the town in a position to try to control the population of coyotes. Just because you're afraid of the coyote doesn't mean that the coyote is a problem. And that's been a tough thing to explain to a lot of our residents, but we've been doing it for multiple years now. What we're dealing with right now is legitimate events of aggressive behavior towards our residents. And we're trying to deal with the problem animals that are in our town. We fully expect to have coyotes in the town of Nahant moving forward. And we have to coexist with them, and our residents have to. I'm happy that there's a lot of people on, and I'm happy that we've got a lot of attention, because it's a way for us to further emphasize the importance and the responsibility of each of our residents to do the right thing when you see a coyote, and do the right thing on preventing, eliminating those food sources so that it can protect you in the future or your neighbor. Again, this is not a population control effort. So I appreciate your comments, Linda. I just wanted to reiterate that. I know there are a few others that have been waiting, that have been on the list. I'm trying to get to residents first. Brendan, could you say your name and address, please?
Yep, Brendan Baronic, Olmsted, 2 Summer Street. I've been able to listen to most of the conversation, but I did step out for a little bit, so I'm sorry if this has already been covered. But I was curious if you'd looked at about the migratory patterns, as to whether, if you use camera traps to, or at least try to understand if you've got coyotes regularly traveling from Lynn into Nahant and back and forth. Because I'm wondering if, what happens if this aggressive, the aggressive animal that's been, observed is actually traveling in from Lynn, and it's not one of the ones that's taken up residence here in Nahant.
Dave, do you want to attempt to respond to that?
Sure. Coyotes have defined territories, and they defend their territories. A family group will defend a territory against another family group. And so it's more than likely that there is a family group that is using Nahant proper, if you will, as its territory. And then there are family groups in Lynn. And so it's not likely that there's this traveling back and forth. I know I said it's possible before. I am assuming that the animals that are on Nahant are resident there. And keep in mind that it hasn't been just an individual that has been involved in these incidents. I don't know if it was more than one coyote that was involved in the attacks on dogs on leash in the summer, but there have been instances where there have been 5, 6 animals that have been surrounding people walking their dogs, and so it's not just a single animal. So there are multiple animals in Nahant that are posing this threat. And so if there's an animal that's moving back and forth, and there's a large portion of coyote populations that don't belong to family groups. They're called transients. Essentially, it's estimated it's about 1/3 of the population. And so those could be some of those animals that are kind of just bouncing around and that are being seen moving back and forth on the causeway. But you have many animals that are resident on Nahant, and some of those are those aggressive ones.
All right, thank you, Dave. Rebecca, again, if you could state your name and address.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. Yes, this is Rebecca Dimitrick. I'm with Humane Wildlife Control, Box 65, Moss Landing, California. I'm the one who's offered expertise in this matter to spend a week or two on site evaluating your coyotes and their behavior and helping the town build a progressive coyote response plan at no charge, if accepted prior to the killing. That said, listen, I think labeling these animals as aggressive or habituated, not only are these antiquated terms, we don't use those anymore, it's also premature. I think it's based also on faulty information. I have scrubbed through the entire 2022 police reports as well as social media posts. I do not see anything that could be considered a public safety threat. So I think the behavior is being misinterpreted and then possibly relayed to the state, because I don't think, Dave, that you would have been advising this extermination otherwise. So I think you've been misinformed. We're hearing so much fear from the residents, and you can see it on the social media post, and Linda was just expressing it. They're so frightened. These folks don't know how to, nor are they capable of hazing appropriately. And as Dave mentioned in one of his talks, this can lead to the coyotes in the town feeling like they're kings of the town. And that's what you're seeing. As for the attacks during summer, I want to say I scrubbed through what I could find and through the police reports, and there were 2 dogs that were lunged at. There was zero contact with, sorry about that, zero contact with the dogs, and it was right down the street from where the pups were. So this was, they were protective of their pups. They were not, it was not predatory. And that's a distinction that you must make. Also, I want to explain that the groups of the coyotes that you're mentioning that occurred in the last few months, again, these are the pups. They are following their elders. There were about 9 pups born near Furbish Road this year. Not all of them probably survived. So you have a pack of 8. The 2, the king and the queen, that are the only ones that breed, possibly 2 helpers, and the remaining pups of the year, which are the size of the adults right now. 70 to 80% of these pups will disperse. That's why you're only getting 4 reports, police reports this month so far. They're dispersing, they're leaving, they're moving off the island. To conclude, I believe that Mass Wildlife's position that they're aggressive has been based on misinformation. And I'm asking, please, Dave and your team, to reevaluate the police reports. I'd also like the department to support our plan to provide our expertise, our boots on the ground, to assess the coyotes' behavior, provide guidance to the town, to build a progressive response plan that will include lethal removal of coyotes that exhibit unacceptable aggression towards people. You're not there. I've been working with wildlife for over 40 years and nuisance wildlife for the last 12. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Katie Nolan, is it?
Yes, hi. Katie Nolan, my address is 983 Ashlot Drive, Washington, New Hampshire. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm the general campaigner at In Defense of Animals, an international organization with 250 members, 609 of whom live in Nahant and Essex County. I'm speaking on behalf of these members to respectfully urge you to reconsider your decision to hire the USDA and instead implement a long-term coyote management plan immediately so that the current family of coyotes will be spared. A non-lethal management plan has been offered free of charge, and I ask that you consider this offer. Killing these coyotes will not address the root of the problem. Wild animal-human conflicts stem from human-caused issues like improper waste disposal, land modifications, feeding of wild animals, and more, all of which are addressed by the non-lethal plan offered by coyote professionals. Again, I urge you to reconsider and implement a long-term coyote management plan immediately that is non-lethal. Planning to pursue non-lethal solutions in the future is very commendable, but it makes no difference to the current family of coyotes whose lives are at risk. Thank you again for your time and your consideration, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Katie. I don't have anyone else in the chat. If there's anyone else that wants to speak, please put your name in the chat or raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute. Anna?
Yes,
Could
thank
say
you.
say your name and address,
My
please?
name is Anna Cox. I live at 57 Breezy Hill Terrace, which is also next to a ravine. So I frequently see coyotes, and when I see them, there's at least 2 at a time. Last night there was 4. So I just popped on. I didn't get a chance to hear everyone speaking, but I'm really too irritated to address the things that have been said. But I really like your decision that you made 2 weeks ago, and I listened to the whole December 8th meeting on tape, and I thought it was very thoughtful, and that the people who spoke seemed to understand. And I think it's ridiculous to be challenging Dave Waddles and saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's all I have to share right now.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Judith? Again, if you could state your name and address, I'm asking you to unmute now.
Hi, yes, this is Judith Murphy, 88 Little Nahant Road, and I just wanted to say that I'm in support of the recent decision, and the Board of Selectmen and Dave have done a lot to educate the people of Nahant on how to handle this. And so I respectfully disagree that we haven't been trained on how to haze properly. I have 3 little dogs, and I have to take them out one at a time on a leash in my backyard to feel comfortable. And that is not living the way we should be living in Nahant. And that's what I would like to express. So I fully in support in the recent decision.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Brendan?
Yes, I just had Brendan Bronco said 2 Summer Street, Nahant. Just a follow-up question. So have camera traps been used to monitor the causeway? And is this done on an ongoing basis?
I'm sorry, ask the question again, Brendan.
Have camera traps or some way of detecting the movement of the coyotes across the causeway? Has that been done, and like how long of a period was the monitoring done for? And is it done now?
No, that hasn't been done. It's
okay.
Again, we're not, you might have missed in the beginning when I spoke, but we're not monitoring that or attempting to prevent coyotes from coming to Nahant. Mm-hmm. And we're not trying to eliminate current and future coyotes as a method of population control or nuisance control or anything of that measure. We've had substantiated reports of aggressive behavior that we've investigated, and we've shared that information with Mass Wildlife, and we're following their guidance to handle the current problem animals that we have in our community. We fully expect to have coyotes in the future, and it's our responsibility as a community to follow the guidance of the professionals. As you know, Rebecca and Katie had mentioned, the professional guidance on how to properly haze and avoid conflict. We'll be continuing that effort. It's the main focus of our effort, and it's our responsibility to follow that. So we have not been monitoring the causeway because it doesn't really fall into the efforts that we're pursuing.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
Hold on, one other thing. Speak.
Excuse me. Okay. Jeannie Baronic, 2 Summer Street, Nahant, Mass. I'm an educator, and so I'd like to raise these questions. 1, have the children at the Johnson School been given at least an hour of instruction on how to behave around coyotes and how to haze coyotes? Secondly, has the Council on Aging conducted workshops of at least an hour for seniors on how to haze coyotes?
So, I'd have to ask the superintendent of schools and the director of Council on Aging for the specifics, but I do know that it's been part of their common, it's been something that they've been talking about with their constituencies regularly over the last couple of years.
Okay, because since this is a public safety area, it's something that the schools would do. And, also to, it's really hard to change, to get rid of a fear, but, women for years have had, training in self-defense to protect themselves. And so I really think, and it takes a while and that practice, and I really think that we really need to have a more stepping up of it, an active area in this. And so to see if we can build and get rid of that fear and involve psychologists, and perhaps the people from Moss Landing could help us in that area. Because if there are going to be around, this fear is going to be around, and you're going to have to deal with it.
Okay, thank you. Mike Luch or Luch. I'm asking you to unmute now, if you can announce your name and address.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate all your help. I'm just curious if Dave would comment on what the women from the IDA had talked about.
Okay, Dave.
Is there something in particular that you would like me to comment about?
Yeah, just that, let me think about that for a second, that you're misinformed in your investigations, and you're not coming to the same conclusions, and you don't, and they're disagreeing with you that they're aggressive.
I would contend that 6 animals circling someone as they're trying to watch their dog displays aggression. I would contend that that does pose a public safety threat. And if they disagree with that, that's fine. I don't know what they would require to occur before they would declare something to be a public safety threat. Is it someone being attacked by a coyote? Is it someone being bitten in one of these circumstances? These animals are displaying aggressive behavior, a complete lack of fear of people. And it is to protect public safety that these recommendations have come from the division. If we were to get these sorts of responses or this sort of information from another town, we would make the same recommendations. It is contrary to what we tell every single town and every single individual we work with in Massachusetts with coyotes on a daily basis. We teach the coexistence. We teach that they have to learn to live with coyotes. But when it poses a public safety threat, we are going to allow and recommend that the animals are lethally removed to remove that public safety threat.
All right, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I don't really want to get into a debate over who's right and who's wrong. I appreciate your comments, Dave, and I appreciate the question from Mike. I'll add that the town of Nahant has investigated, and beyond just what you'd find in police reports, these are follow-up conversations that either myself, selectmen, the animal control officer, police officers who have all, been guided and educated from Mass Wildlife on what questions to ask. We've investigated. I can't even put a number on how many different, reports have come in that we've investigated, but I'll say that the bulk of those have resulted in, educating the resident as to why that wasn't really an aggressive behavior. So, the comment that, that we are, surfacing to Mass Wildlife exaggerated claims is not exactly accurate. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We've actually vetted out a lot of those exaggerated claims. I'm not saying that they don't occur. And a lot of the reason why they occur is because residents are, maybe misinformed and, have that sense of fear. But Mass Wildlife and has guided us on how to, filter through those. And so the recent ones that have occurred that are substantiated, we have elevated to Mass Wildlife. But we have called out a lot of the ones that did not meet that level. Renee?
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could say your name and address.
Yeah, so Renee Secor from Project Coyote, carnivore conservation advocate with Project Coyote. I live in Stanfordville, New York. So your neighbor, but thank you, thank you so much for providing this overview of, all this that the city has done in terms of public education and outreach to work towards coexistence. I really do appreciate those efforts, and Project Coyote has, provided public education in the past, like you mentioned, and we will commit to continuing to doing that because, we want to ensure that Nahant residents are able to foster coexistence with all their wildlife, including their resident coyote population, right? That just has just as much a right to kind of exist in this increasingly crowded world that we're living in. So I would just mention, and I would reiterate a bit of what Rebecca was saying, that, I'm not sure that the behavior, or I'm certain that the behavior that has been reported and kind of relayed tonight can be remediated with a non-lethal response. And I would say that, a non-lethal kind of intensive and comprehensive non-lethal response here is what we would require before you turn to this lethal response. I think that there's still an opportunity for high intensity hazing kind of directed at these nuisance animals, showing human habituation, which is what, part of what, Rebecca is recommending in her plan. And so we would urge you to consider that before turning to this lethal strategy. And yeah, I know we're short on time, so I'll just leave kind of the comments at that, but that would be a summary of where kind of our stance is our organization.
Okay, thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Peter, Barbara, you are the last speaker here.
Can't listen.
Pete Barber, 22 Emerald Road. Just a question to our experts, or I guess I'll call them out-of-town experts. What are these non-lethal measures that you're suggesting we take with these aggressive animals? And I do know of personal, relatives that have had very serious interactions with coyotes. So, I believe that there are aggressive coyotes. So what are the non-lethal ways to handle this?
So this citizens forum is really an opportunity for you to speak to the board and the town officials. It's not really a open mic session for interaction back and forth amongst, those who are here in citizens forum. I appreciate the question, Peter. I'm sure that the professionals that are on tonight would be happy to answer that. And I think I have some of their emails and I can connect the two of you. It's certainly something that they've already spoken with Dave Waddles about, and we'll be following up with that as well. Those techniques and those recommendations are things that the town is interested in. As I said, we're going to be continuing to coexist with coyotes in the future. So what we're dealing with today is certainly not the end. So those I hope that those professionals remain committed to our community and consider assisting us in the future as we continue to coexist with our new neighbors here in town. Okay, any members of the select board have any comments before we sign off?
No, I have none.
I'll just say thanks everyone for your questions and comments. And very quickly, you know, the topic of coyotes can be an emotional issue and people have strong opinions on both sides. Some of the discourse I've seen on Facebook on this topic in particular has been less than civil. And I just want everyone to remember that we share this little community and we're all neighbors. And I hope we can express our opinions respectfully.
And I would just second that, Josh. Well said. Again, as you said, Tony, the decision we came to is not an easy one.
It's hard to, Mark, it's hard to hear you. I think it's.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, I agree with Josh. You know, I haven't been happy with the comments that have been going on social media. So I hope we all can respect each other, even if we have differences of opinions on this. This decision was not an easy one to come to. I view my responsibility first and foremost for public safety, and that's the basis of my decision. And you know, hopefully we can learn something from this and improve in the future. And I want to thank everybody for participating, and thank you for putting this together, Tony.
Hey, thank you. Thank you both, and thank you all. And Tony, in particular, thank you for putting this across so succinctly and so incorporated. It's really a outstanding job in doing it. And well, not just tonight, but over the last couple of years that I've been on the board. You've really done it. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Go ahead.
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark on aye.
Hey, happy holidays, guys. Gene Canty, aye.
Hey, everyone.
The holidays.